This video is an introduction to creating user accounts in Rangecast and associating them with your hub so that the user accounts can listen to your content. We're looking here at the entry screen for the HTML5 system, and for a brief overview, this top link here is to the Rangecast player, and we're looking at the bottom link here, which is Hub Administration. So going into Hub Administration, we'll ask for your username, and we're going to start off in giving administrative users admin at hub name as your user account with administrative access. And then you enter your password and down here the name of the hub you want to administer. This is because a single administrative user account can be set up to have administrative access over several hubs, which is useful in some situations. When you've filled in that information, you press the Enter key, and that takes you to the administrative screen. We're going to be focusing here on two of the items in this list: the access license, which is a place you can list which user accounts are allowed to access your audio, and setting a password, which is used to set a password for your accounts. The other items in the list are not immediately relevant here. The first thing you would do is go into Access License, which pulls up a form that you can fill out with a list of your users who you want to have access. In general, your usernames will be a username you choose, followed by an @ symbol, and then your hub name, so that each hub has its own username space. You can choose anything you like inside that space. So you would fill out here, this is a text box, you could fill in as many users as you want in a list, and when you're done you would press at the bottom of the screen, scroll through a few of those, Save License button. This particular example we're looking at here has some additional boxes because it's possible to set up different users to have different levels of permission to access specific content, not other content, or have enforced delays. But in most cases that's not relevant. You can fill everything into this first text box right here, scroll past down to the bottom and press Save License to accept your changes. There's a note here at the top of how many usernames you're allowed to have. You may get an error message if your list exceeds that number. If you want to remove an account from having access to your system, you just take the username out of this list, press the Save button, and that's done. The other page to know about is setting a password. And this is used specifically for setting passwords that are in your namespace. That is, a username followed by an @ symbol followed by your hub name. So you're constrained into that space here. You can fill in the username you like in the password. You can type it in twice if you want to have verify it was typed in correctly. And there's also a checkbox down here you can click if you want to make it a multi-user account, which lets several people access at the same time under the same username and password. In general, though, that's mostly for situations like if you're hosting on your website, you're hoping a public player, but mostly inside an organization, it's easiest to have everyone have their own account. And to show what this would look like if we were to make a user account here, and we were to give it some password, and press the Set Password button, that would set the password. It would tell you what the name of the account it was set for was. And you would also have down here a link, and you could copy and paste this link if you like. This is a URL that will directly launch the Rangecast player into that user account without needing to enter a password. That's useful if you want to bookmark a URL or have it in that kind of environment where you don't want the user needing to enter the password each time. Your choice whether to use that or not. And then that's pretty much all there is to it. There's a note here that setting a password does not grant or affect listening permissions. That's because all this page does is associate a password to a user account. Up here on the access license is the page where you say which users are allowed to access your content. So it's really a two-step process. You both need to say the user is allowed to access your content and set a password for that user. If you forget the bookmark URL, the shortcut for getting into a user account, you can always press down here obtain a login, and you'd enter a username and password here. This is the full form, so it would be like that, and enter your password, and you could press the Get URL button, and that will show you the URL again that you can use for that purpose. And if you want to give one of your users administrative access, you can click the administrator link page here, and you can add additional usernames into this list. Anyone on this list is allowed to access this administrative system. Other users you set up just can access the Rangecast player. So that's a quick overview to what's involved. The basic concept is if you are setting up user accounts for your system, is you'll want to list those user accounts and say they have access to your system, and you'll want to set a password for each of those accounts. And to enter this, you need to use a administrative username with a password and specify on that login page, specify which hub you're administering. This is so if someone administers several systems around the country or something like that, they can use their username to access any of those systems. So that's the overview.